Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Wednesday, the 24th day of September 2025. We're ready for the season now. I hope you're all safe and healthy. I hope your families are safe and healthy. And I hope the needs of you and your families in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in health, along with first responders, every day risking their lives for the benefit of others that they don't even know. Blessings upon those that pick up garbage, keep our places clean, and those that make deliveries, such as mail and people, for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women that are out here trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover teenagers and children that are victims of child molestation and pedophilia. Those people helping those that are victims of prostitution, child prostitution, for pornography, child pornography, human trafficking, and sex slavery. Double curses on all the perpetrators. Double curses on all those who make business and money out of this. And double curses on all the perverts that drive the demands that cause these evil and heinous industries to exist. Finally, double blessings on the homeless. More than 700,000 men, women, families, children, senior citizens, military veterans, homeless in the United States of America. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. So yesterday was the media day for the New York Knicks. And I was really attentive to listen to everything that was said. I listened to Mike Brown's part, the 14-minute part that was Mike Brown, at least 5 times. I wanted to really listen close because in the NBA, under Tibbs, what I learned with Tibbs, up until really it was with Pat Riley. I would say Pat Riley, where you started seeing the Knicks coaches understand the New York media. Pat Riley, and then there was Jeff Van Gundy. Prior to that, the coaches would get stung by the media. The media has gotten progressively worse over the years. It was a much better run vocation 30 years ago than it is now. Now, especially in New York, but in major big cities in the NBA, it's not about actually journalizing what is actually happening. It's about creating a narrative that you want people to be interested in, to read or click on your material. So it's not about what's actually happening. It's not about a clear analysis of a situation. It's about what narrative, particularly if it's a controversial narrative that could create drama. See, like in television in general, in media in general, drama is probably, the second selling thing outside of sex is drama, right? So to create drama is the game. Okay, so to get the most views, to get the most clicks, to get the most attention, drama must be created. And in order to create drama, you need a narrative. And so media is now, and not just in sports, but in all areas, media is focused on creating a narrative. And what happens is people that want to hear a certain narrative, in other words, it's what they want, will listen to that narrative, and that media outlet will gain more money because somebody is getting a narrative they want to hear. So, as example, you got a narrative on Fox News that's different from a narrative on MSNBC. And the people that want to hear those particular styles of narratives will listen to those particular styles of narratives because they want to hear. In other words, they want to hear what they already want to hear. They want justification. They want substantiation for what they are wanting to hear to be right. And these media outlets, and not just those two, but all of them, bring the narrative that their audience wants to hear. Versus, let's go back 30, 40 years, there was no narrative. It was, for most part, there was narrative, but not as much as it is now. But for the most part, it was the reporting of an event. The accurate, unbiased reporting of something that was going on, whatever it was. So with that in mind, in New York, because of the narrative-based media, and especially in New York, and especially in a season that has high expectations like the New York Knicks do now, championship expectations. Every win means they should never lose again, or that they're one trade, which they're willing to suggest, away from even getting better. Every loss means the end of the season, and they are completely disappointing, and they need to make multiple trades to get better. This is the New York media now. This is the New York media, and then following that media, the followers of that media create Knicks content, because it doesn't take much to create content these days, that they hope people will click on in following the media narrative. Okay, so somebody like myself that is a pure Knicks fan, unapologetic Knicks fan, and I'm always looking for the positives of the New York Knicks. My narrative is based on positivity for the Knicks. What can they do to get better? Because my goal as a Knicks fan is for my team to win. I don't want my favorite player to score 30 a game. That's nice, but if we ain't winning, that don't matter. If my favorite player scores 8 a game and we win the championship, I'm the happiest right there. That's what we're talking about. New York Knicks, championship, winning. And then for me, myself, in understanding where the Knicks have come from over the last 50 years, what I'm seeing now for the first time since Pat Riley is long-term sustainable winning. The best championship organizations practice that long-term sustainable winning, which means in the beginning of every season, there's no question your team is going to be one of the tops in its conference, and it's a threat to go all the way. Okay, there's no question. So at this point, but it was before Tibbs, the question was, could they get 500? Could they get more than 21 wins? Then after Tibbs, the question was, can they make the playoffs when he first started? Then after he had made it 2 out of the first 3 seasons, the question was, okay, what's the next step? Now we know they can make the playoffs. By the time they got to Tibbs' 4th season, they was long-term sustainable winners. And so now you knew they're going to make the playoffs. Question is, top 4, top 3, top 6, what were they going to be? So now the Knicks are arrived to the point where the expectation is Eastern Conference Finals. The clear best team in the Eastern Conference right now because of various factors, including injuries. I will grant that. But facts are, they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. The expectation is number 1 in the East coming into this season. So the expectation is extremely high. Coaches like Mike Brown, like Tom Thibodeau, learned how to manage the media expectations and limit the number of material they give the media for clickbait. Even though it doesn't stop some fools. Like, over the last 2 weeks, we've been hearing Deuce is on the trade block, and now Brogdon changes everything, and Deuce is going to be out. The typical stupidity, sophomore BS that we hear from people that's trying to just get clicks. But no, we are need to now is looking at this team as what it is. It's a championship level team as is right now. And Mike Brown needs, and he knows, and his presser yesterday demonstrated. He knows how to communicate so that he's not, acting like he don't want to talk to you. He's being nice because the media will get trippy if he act like he don't want to talk to you. And then second, as Tibbs did too, and as secondly, he don't give them too much fodder for their bull crap. But he does talk in codes, like Tibbs did. For example, if you recall, when Tibbs would say about any player, he's situational, you knew that guy wasn't playing, right? He's situational means he's out of rotation and he ain't playing. Okay? Unless he was adamant, like with Kemba Walker. When he took him out of rotation, he said Kemba Walker's out the rotation. He didn't even say situational. And they had to ask him, you mean he's situational? No, he's out the rotation. That was rare, but that was telling you this cat's not playing. I'm not playing him no more. Okay? So there's codes that they use. And so Mike Brown speaking in his own codes, and it tells you a lot about him. And that's why I listened to the thing 4 or 5, maybe 6 times yesterday. I was hearing his codes and trying to catch what he's saying. So yesterday, they asked him, of course, your starting 5. And he said it's a process that's evolving. But before he did that, the overall thing I got from Mike Brown yesterday was what we already knew about him. And again, granted, I don't know what a Mike Brown player looks like. And I don't know what to expect if he's looking for a player. But he does give certain things. For example, he's a communicator. Mike Brown is a communicator. And I mean from the top level starter, the Jalen Brunsons and Karl Anthony Towns, to the two-way players, the Jamesons, to guys that are at the end of the bench, the Koliks. He communicates with everybody. He's a communicator. Also, he's a collaborator. And this came through when he said, they asked him about a couple things. They asked him about the players, and they asked him about his assistant coaches. And he said the same answer. He said, I like some of the ideas. Now, why would he say that? Because he's asked them for their ideas. Players love that. He has a way he wants to play, which we'll get into, but he's communicating. He's open to hear what you got to say. People like that in general. Players love that. Assistant coaches love that. And so we got that. He said, well, Jalen Brunson said. He asked Jalen Brunson about the style that they're going to play. And Jalen Brunson said, we're going to look to run. But the most important part of that statement, which I am very sure 99% of y'all missed, we need to get stops to be able to run. He said the fast break opportunities must be predicated off of defense. That was the most important thing he said, which tells you there's going to be a focus on getting stops. Now, Mike Brown has a history. This is the thing. When I look at a coach's history, I'm looking for a pattern. And it's hard to get a pattern with Mike Brown. But in some ways, it's right in front of my face. Like, for example, he had Cleveland as the number one defense in the NBA with LeBron at 24, MVP level LeBron. LeBron won his first MVP, I think he was 24. And he won 2 MVPs in a row. He won it the second year, too. That year, that was Mike Brown's third year coaching Cleveland. He won 66 games. The next year, they won 61. Now, they lose in the playoffs. They lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to Orlando, and I forgot who they lost to the second time when he won 61 games. Then he was fired at the beginning of that fourth season. They lost in the second round to Boston, which is, again, that's a concern because he has a habit of doing that. But I want to also say he has never had a team this talented. I'm looking at the rosters of those teams. I'm just being honest. They cannot compare to what the Knicks have right now. They just cannot. Even with youthful, energetic MVP LeBron, they didn't have the rest of the squad. He was playing LeBron 40 minutes a game. And this is a cat that plays 10 deep. Okay? And so that's goes to show they were riding LeBron. So, as he should. But over the years, what you're looking for, what I've seen is, he takes, and he said it yesterday, he takes the strengths of the players and he exploits those strengths so that the team is most successful. Unlike, let's get, and again, I'm not trying to break on Tibbs because I don't know, I'm Tibbs Hive, and if you come on my channel talking about him, even if he's gone already, I will get you out of here. So don't even think you got the free democracy to come here and talk about my coach like that. But Tibbs was, it's my way. This is my way. Or it's the highway. This is the type of player I want. This is my way. And I like that. Okay? You may not like that as a fan or if you think you're a coach, but I respect that. So in other words, you coming to Tibbs, there's things he expects. There is no compromise on that. If you can't play no defense, get the hell out of here. Okay? Same, it's like Eric Spoelstra. Eric Spoelstra the same way. Okay? You coming to play in Miami? Oh, you got to know you're going to play defense or you're not going to play. Okay? Period. And that's what Tibbs did. So Tibbs is my way or the highway. This is where it is. This is what I want. This is the style of player I want. If you meet this criteria, you might be able to ball with me. If you can't, you're not going to play. Mike Brown is a little different. Mike Brown is, what can you do? Oh, you can shoot? Okay, we'll get you in the game where we can get you some shots. What you do, play defense? Oh, we get you in the game where we need stops. We get you running in that defense. And he'll figure it out. Okay, he mentioned Keon Ellis, who is now, at this point, as we're now sitting here today, the best perimeter defender the Kings have, by far. And he started with Mike Brown as a two-way player. Okay, he's now on a 3-year, $5.1 million deal. And he's eligible for an extension in February. of 2026, which he will get some money, but that's our deuce right there. Okay, so that's all the defense he had though, and he used it. So in Sacramento, they had offense, and they had the number one offense in the NBA at one point, but he did not have the buy-in on the defensive end of the floor. He did not have the buy-in. This is the thing. When you're talking about players making 10 million, 20 million, 40 million a year, you can't just yell at them like you in high school or college and think they're going to listen to you. It ain't going to work like that. So in terms of motivation, you need a guy that's already motivated without you having to push him. You need a guy that takes accountability as a natural part of his character, Jalen Brunson. Okay? And that's your leader, then all of the players will follow that. Jalen Brunson sets the standard here because he is self-accountable. Nobody can get on Jalen Brunson harder than Jalen Brunson gets on himself. The same can be said of McCall, of Josh Hart, of OG Anunoby. The same could be said. And I'm not sure about Karl Anthony Towns in that regard. He talks a good game, but we're going to find out. Because last year, as you recall, OG had something to say about Karl's lack of effort on the defensive end. And so that's what you call accountable. So you want players that are accountable already so that you ain't got to worry about that. You cannot hold no $40 million a year player accountable. You can't. What you going to do? He going to just flip you off. He's still going to get his money. You need a dude that's going to be accountable because he is. So the Knicks have that. He did not, that is Brown, in Sacramento. He did not have that. Okay? There were guys that were offensively gifted, Sabonis. Defensively challenged, Sabonis. Okay? There were guys that still learning, Murray. There were guys that were the star, Fox. Okay? But they had weaknesses and they were not accountable on their own for both sides of the ball. Okay? They did not understand you can't just outscore everybody and win in the league. You got to have stops to win the chip in the league. He's got a team like that now. So he said he don't have his starting five, but he's looking for guys that could spray the ball and hit corner and open threes. Okay? Now, we have talked about the three possibilities of the fifth starter. Now, I've heard there was some title of a video, it's crucial that he finds out for the next season to find out who the fifth starter is. See, that kind of drama, see what I'm saying? That narrative, stupid drama crap, that's what I'm talking about. But he could figure out the fifth starter, might figure it out right away, might come during the course of the first 30 games or so. He'll figure it out. But the three guys are still the three guys that we're talking about. Talking about Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, and Deuce McBride. Now, understanding that those three guys are your possibilities because the four other guys are written in stone. You know, Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges are starting. We don't need to even have a discussion about that. And if you think we do, I don't want to talk to you because you won't know enough about basketball. But those four guys are starting. So after that, we need to understand who is your fifth starter. Now, when he talks about spraying the ball, touching the paint, okay, so he's looking for guys that can get into the paint, spray it out, and he's looking for guys that when they get a catch and shoot three, they can hit it on a consistent basis, okay? Now, with the starting five, four of those guys fit that criteria, okay? Josh Hart's the only one, and even he has his moments where he can hit threes. And so you could make an argument for Josh in that regard. The problem is, this is what happened. I'm looking, so when he said that, that caused me, raw Hebrew, to look at the stats on the five-man lineups. Why? Not just the plus minus. I wanted to see the plus minus. Now, the starting five of the Knicks, which we know was Josh Hart in there with them other four, they were plus three. Last year, which is pretty good. They played a lot of minutes together, 940 minutes. They were plus three. That's pretty daggone good. But the problem with that lineup, which you guys are going to understand because we saw this, the problem with that lineup is they gave up 6 more attempts on three per game to their opponents. So the opponents got 3-point attempts, 6 more while they were on the floor than normal when that crew's on the floor. The opponents shot the 3-point better. The opponents made more threes when those crew was on the floor. So we had a problem locking down the three with that crew. Now, overall, that crew was 3 points better, even with that. And they got to the line more. They got to the line four times more than their opponents while that crew was on the floor. They really, that was, there was pluses and minuses to the situation, but they committed more fouls than their opponent when they were on the floor. And we know Karl Anthony Towns has a very bad penchant for creating stupid fouls. So this was stuff, pluses and minuses. But with respect to what Mike Brown was saying, guys that are going to spray the ball out and guys are going to knock down open threes from the corners and from the sides. First, you got to be able to get more threes than your opponent. So you need stops. Secondly, you got to knock down those threes. So with respect to the Knicks, being 3 points better with that crew was pretty good. And also you got to take into account that was Tibbs' offense. And even I would understand Mike Brown's going to have a more open offense. What I liked about what he said is not only to touch the paint, spray the ball out, but he said the guy that's the passer needs to keep moving. Oh, this is great. Which means that what you're going to get, which is what Golden State does to me better than any team that I've seen in the last 30 years, is once somebody passes the ball from touching the paint, you see a lot of picks, off-ball picks with people that don't have the ball, like player movement, picks on players that don't have the ball to get another guy open. That you're going to see that with Mike Brown. Okay, so that's going to be dynamic. And it takes a lot of energy, which is why he said 9.5 to 10 guys. And yes, I looked at his stats from the teams he has coached, from Cleveland to LA to Sacramento. And of course, he was an assistant with Golden State. But all his teams, 10 players. 10 players play, okay? So he's going to play 10. He may even play an 11th if there's injuries, which during the course of an 82-game season is going to be. So he may even play 11 guys. And so the top 11 is going to be very important. So he wants ball movement. You're going to be happy about that, ball movement. He wants to have guys that hit threes. Now, I want to also show you, for the Knicks, the team that when they're on the floor last year produced more 3-point attempts, always included the same guy. Every time this guy is in with 5, they get more 3-point attempts than their opponents. 6.5 more, 8 more, 11 more, 19 more. Deuce McBride. While he's on the floor, the teams he's on the floor with consistently get more 3-point looks. Now, why that is, I'm not exactly sure. But it killed me the other day. Some knucklehead came in my channel talking about he only averaged 6 a game. He had a bad series. To look at a playoff series and just simply say he only averaged 6 a game, so he had a bad series, is about the stupidest thing I heard. If you were in high school, that might be a thing, or maybe even college, but in the league. So Deuce had 6 points a game, right? But in the playoffs, when he's on the floor, his team was 11 points better than the opponent. So if you're got a team on the floor, and no matter what those stats from those 5 guys are, when those 5 guys come off the floor, you're 11 points better. Do you want that team on the floor? So with Deuce on the floor, they get more 3-point opportunities. And in addition to that, they mostly outscore their opponents. In all of the, 31 points, 3 points, 6 points, 25 points. I mean, he really, when he's on the floor, they get more 3-point opportunities. They knock down more 3-pointers. Okay. And I think it's at least a function of getting stops as well. Okay. So point of attack defense. So I don't know what Mike Brown's going to do. I really don't. But I'm looking at Deuce starting on a sense of when you're talking about analytics. Mike Brown is definitely an analytics coach. He studies analytics and he goes with the analytics. I don't see enough with Mitchell Robinson. I know we did a post, a fan thing on my channel on Sunday in the live, and everybody wanted Mitchell Robinson to start. And I totally get that. I can't argue with you. But the thing is, the argument I would make if I'm Mike Brown is I don't have enough data with Mitchell Robinson as a starter on this team. See, when I was looking at Mitchell Robinson, I have to look at him career-wise because he missed so many games. It's hard to get enough data with any particular lineup. In fact, I'm looking at Mitch Rob in last year's lineups. And if I look at Mitch Rob, right, for last year's lineup, he played the most minutes last year, right? I'm going to show you right now. He played the most minutes this past year, again, because he was out all season. So it's hard. You got to get data with him with the current team. The most he played 40, almost 50 minutes for the whole season with him, Hart, Brunson, Bridges, and Anunoby. They were minus 30. So if you're going to base it on that, he ain't starting. Okay? He ain't starting. Yeah. I mean, that's just what it is. The second one he had was DeLon Wright, Mitch Rob, Hart, Bridges, and Anunoby, plus 9. And they only played 25 minutes together. That was mostly April, okay, when DeLon Wright was starting for Jalen Brunson. So you don't have enough data to make a clear decision on Robinson, to me. So if I'm, now look, you're in a situation where you must win. You can't take no risk. You want to mitigate or reduce risk here. So Mike Brown can't take no chances. I would bring Robinson off the bench for this reason, in this scenario. I know in the best performances he has had on the Knicks, it's been with bench units. Okay? His pluses, bench units are outstanding. Okay? So now you're reducing the risk of injury and you're increasing his productivity. So I would bring him off the bench. Now, Josh Hart, I can make an argument he starts because of the numbers. Okay? Because of the numbers. With Josh Hart, his best 5-man, again, he was in the starting lineup, 940 minutes, they're plus 3, okay? They just gave up too many threes. That was it. They gave up too many threes. Now, I'm not gonna even try to tell you it was Josh Hart's fault that happened. But I'm just saying that was the lineup that gave up too many threes. When Josh Hart was, the best lineup for him in terms of overall was Bridges, Hart, Brunson, McBride, and Towns. Let me say it again. Bridges, Brunson, Hart, McBride, and Towns. So that's without Mikal Bridges. So you're not going to see that as a starting unit. So don't even get that in your head. But plus 11, they got 0.14 more. They got They got 11 less threes than their opponent that lineup, but they were plus 11. Yeah. So they went to the line 5 more times than their opponent. So they were more getting to the line. They weren't really getting a lot of threes, but they were more getting to the line, and they were being more aggressive with that unit. So that was probably Josh Hart's best unit, and with that crew right there. Yeah, and Hart seemed to thrive with McBride as well, but everybody did. So I can understand Hart getting the starter with the crew he's with, because with his finger, you saw his finger look hideous yesterday. He's going to patch the mess up and he's going to ball. It's going to affect his shooting. It's not going to affect Charlie Hustle, though. It's not going to affect his rebounding. It's not going to affect his defense. He's going to still be Charlie Hustle, but it may affect his shooting. But when he's on the starting unit, you're talking about Brunson, OG, Mikal, and Karl-Anthony Towns, all shooters. So you got him surrounded by a bunch of shooters, and he plays defense. So that would work. So I would say either Hart or McBride would start. Unless, and again, Mike Brown, said he's been communicating, and he had off-season workouts, voluntary off-season workouts. And so I don't know what he's seen there. He does, but we'll find out. Okay. But looking at what he said yesterday, corner three, spray the ball, getting stops, you know they're going to be a pressurized defense. So they're going to need to sub in and out a lot of dudes that play some defense, which is why you're going to get Shamet, Brogdon, they're going to play. I don't know about Ariel Hooporti. I'm a little concerned in the sense that I think they might trade Ariel Hooporti. I know people talking about Daddier, but listen, some of y'all, fantasy and fact. Again, we come back to fantasy and fact. Daddier is their most precious under 22-year-old player. But nah, I can't even say that. Diawara and Daddier. But he's a youngin'. I don't give up my youngin' if I don't have to. I'd rather give up Ariel Hooporti and Tyler Kolek. And the reason why is I got Brogdon, I got Deuce, I got Brunson. I don't need Kolek. Okay, I don't need him. And what about Hooporti? Well, yes, you got Mitch Robb, Carlton Towns playing the five, and guess what? He's already told you that it's Brown that he wouldn't be afraid to play a two-way player. Jamison is there. And I like Jamison. Jamison is solid. Okay? So he's on your two-way contract. So you got him. And then they talking about Alex Len on top of that. So what I'm saying is you move Kolek and Ariel Hooporti, who's not guaranteed, so you can get the benefit of $4.2 million coming off your books. You already got one contract, even with them guys, that you can sign. So let's say you sign Shamet to the contract you got, then you move $4.2 million, you got another contract, or even two if you want. But you definitely got one, and you got Brogdon. Now let's say they cut Alex Len. You still got Jamison on the two-way. And you still got $2 million to play with. So now you can wait till mid-season. You need to make a move. You got money. Okay? So I see Hooporti and Kolek hitting the road. We'll find out. It didn't make any sense. People talking about Deuce. Let me again explain to some of y'all, most of the people on my channel, we've gotten my channel to the point where most of y'all are just very knowledgeable fans. And I love y'all, man. There's very few knuckleheads that come in here. But let me just explain for the few knuckleheads in the back row why you don't trade Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride is 25. He's a defensive ace for anybody that knows basketball. He's a 40% three-point shooter. He hasn't reached his prime yet. He only getting paid $4 million. You do not trade that to make room for 33-year-old injury-prone freaking Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon is not rookie of the year no more. He's a long way from that. He ain't never seen that again. He ain't sixth man of the year no more. He's a long way from that. He ain't never seen that again. He's injury-prone 33-year-old that you got to watch how many minutes you play him. You do not trade Deuce McBride, 25, for that. That's just common sense. So they're not going to make room for Brogdon by trading Deuce. That's like saying we need to make room for Jamison by trading Carlton Towns. You see what I'm saying? No, you're not going to do that. So, but you would trade end-of-the-bench players. Ariel Hooporti, Tyler Kolek, which is where, you might love Kolek, but where he been over the last 12 months? He been end-of-the-bench. And he can't play no defense. Ariel Hooporti is a value because he's 7 feet, but you got Jamison. Okay? So now you get Jamison, you got Mitch Robb, you got Carlton Towns to 5, and you got Jamison. Okay? You could even bring in the Alex Len if you want. I don't think they would do it, but they could. And then you got Alex Len. So you got plenty of 5 spot. Okay? If you want to get Shamet and what you do, and Brogdon, trade those 2 cats. You solve the problem. And you ain't did nothing to your lineup, but strengthen it. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, we'll be talking more on these things because now the season is here. Y'all enjoy your Wednesday. They practicing today, first day of training camp. Nobody get hurt. Let's get this dub. Let's get this chip. So